Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jesus Centeno, and I am very excited to welcome all of you to today's webinar, where we will be talking about the major top trends in analytics. And today, I'll be your host. I am joined by Matt Quinn, Chief Operating Officer at TIBCO, Nelson Petracek, Chief Technology Officer at TIBCO, and Michael O'Connell, Chief Analytics Officer at TIBCO as well. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome.
Morning.
Quick note for everyone. Good morning. Quick note for everyone to keep in mind, you can send as many questions as you want using the Q&A function in Zoom, and we'll do our best to answer all of them before the end of today's webinar. Okay, so with that, let us get started here. So, Matt, I'm going to start with you, and yeah, I don't think that there's anybody that can deny the importance of analytics in today's marketplace. But can you please explain to the audience why a platform approach is better to tackle the big problems in the enterprise space?
Yeah, look, I think let's do maybe this in a slightly different way. I think that what's happening in the marketplace at the moment around analytics is pretty interesting. You know, for the longest period of time, kind of analytics was always seen to be kind of over there, right? It was, you went to a dashboard, you got a report, and oftentimes you were doing those things kind of almost out of sync with the business decisions that you were making, right? It's kind of like the old, you know, I would go to an application to make a decision, and I would go to a report to understand the decision that I had to make. And those two worlds were often seen as quite distinct. The technologies were evolving very differently. The approach was always pretty different. What I'm now seeing, however, is a big shift away from kind of reporting and analytics that's off to the side, and one that is in situ, right, in place where you are actually making the decisions. And so you're seeing a lot more kind of contextual dashboards. You're seeing the rise of things like analytical applications, rather than just applications with analytics over there. It's like applications which have been built on analytics. And that, I think, is really lending itself to a more holistic platform approach, because the reality is you've got multiple different forms of computing and workloads today. You've got different personas that require different tools that use different applications, and to surface analytics and insight into those different places requires breadth of functionality, but also breadth of deployment and approach. And so, you know, it really is that need for, you know, in making informed decisions in place, which I think is driving the platform approach. And then you think about the platforms themselves. You know, the fact is, if you look at a spectrum of analytics, you know, there are vast differences between delivering a static report in somebody's email box through to developing and delivering, you know, dynamic, rich, analytical kind of applications. They're all still analytics, but it means that your platform both has to service all of those different kind of entry points, but also has to have enough commonality that somebody who is investing in a platform can start in one place and then leverage the breadth without having to start from scratch every single time. And that obviously is everything from the way that we display the visuals, to the way that we allow people to author and interact with the visuals. But increasingly, it's also about the way that we acquire data and manage data and govern data in different ways. And we've kind of brought all of this together to really understand this, and it's something that we call kind of hyperconverged analytics.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that, Matt. So with that, let me switch to Michael, and maybe Michael, you can elaborate a little bit more on from your point of view, right? Like what hyperconverged analytics is, and also, today we see things like not just analytics, right, but like BI, data science, everything colliding and converging very quickly. So how are companies leveraging then data and analytics technologies to drive value in their business models today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the worlds of BI and analytics and data science, colliding and converging, as you pointed out. And all of those functional areas need to access and analyze data from a bunch of different sources, big data, small data, cloud data, on-prem sources. And all those data are accumulating on different timescales, into core repositories or systems of record, specialized business systems. Data are flowing dynamically on event streams in edge environments. And business users and analytics leaders are looking for insights to grow their business, outpace the competition. Like what products are trending in what markets. How is my supply chain for producing those products? That's a pretty germane question a lot of people are asking right now in COVID, as we've got a bunch of supply chain challenges all over the place. And then how is my customer engagement and business process systems working out? Like, BOPUS has become this massive use case over the last year, and buy online, pick up in store. But how do you engage customers? How do you feed your supply chain, get the products, to meet the demand in the various geos and trending by product categories and so on? To get there, you've got to have timely analytics, interactive dashboards, not flat dashboards, interactive dashboards where you can do data discovery. But you do need, to Matt's point, embedded analytics in the systems that you're in on a daily, hourly basis. You do need reports as well as interactive data discovery. You need alerts, predictions, forecasts. You need to be able to optimize processes. So it's a really collection of techniques and against different data sources. And to get to that state of being able to outcompete and grow your business, data managers are, in the hot seat. They got to deliver data quickly, securely, with, flexible governance through data marts or data lakes or event streams, web services. And they want to provide, catalogs, data dictionaries, directories, data cleaning and translation on the fly, metadata classification. You manage, govern, provide access to all of the shared data assets, whether they're structured or unstructured data, image data, video data, machine data, people data. And so this hyperconvergence of analytics and data science and data managers really become front and center to business operations these days as we go faster, we're more remote, more real time. Matt pointed out a bunch of different personas: business analysts or BI developers, expert analysts, developers, data scientists, citizen data scientists, data managers, data modelers, data engineers, architects. All of those personas have got a role to play as we bring analytics front and center into daily operations. And we strive to do that at TIBCO with our connected intelligence and hyperconverged analytics platforms.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Very, very interesting topic for sure. And so Nelson, switching gears here a little bit and building on Michael's answer. So we talked about the fact that data, it's everywhere, right? And typically in those conversations, then you start hearing about edge computing, right? And the relevance of edge computing as a means to address that particular scenario, something that has been promised for quite some time, right? So, could you mind elaborating a little bit on that as far as, what edge computing really means, right? And what TIBCO is doing to help organizations make it a reality?
Sure. Yeah. I think really what it comes down to is the reach and the evolution of the platform to support analytical capabilities. So we've talked a lot about the importance of the platform. We've talked about how these different aspects of the platform and analytics are converging. And I think people are also then adapting the way in which they build their analytical architectures to best support the capabilities that they need to provide to the business and to the different personas that Michael and Matt have just mentioned. And so you've got this interesting mix of people used to run a lot of these systems on-prem. Of course, a lot of that is now shifting to the cloud, but not everything shifts to the cloud. So then you start to look at things like federated architectures or virtualized architectures as a way to give you access to all that information, the data, and the essentially feeds into your analytical processes, if you will. But now that reach is also expanding. So within the cloud, as an example, you saw a lot of organizations, and they're still focused on things things like building out of data lakes and so on. But I think people are realizing that, again, not all your information is going to exist in one single data lake. And so how do you then expand that reach to all these different data sources, which are going to sit in different environments, which leads to a very hybrid environment. Even the way in which you build architectures to support things like data fabrics or data meshes. And that's also a key topic that organizations are looking at today. Now, if you extend that then one step further, now we're saying, well, we can't even afford or necessarily take the time, if you will, to bring all that data back to the cloud, ingest it through these architectures, which are now becoming very layered, make a decision, and then send the answer back. We need to do that in a much more timely fashion, a much more contextual fashion, and reduce what I call decision latency at the time when you identify a threat or opportunity and the time when you generate a response. So now this is a kind of a roundabout way to get to the discussion around edge analytics, but it's an evolution of the architecture to support these capabilities. And so now organizations are saying, well, what I really need to do is take a portion of my analytical capabilities, push that out to the edge, right, closer to the sources of the information, and do my analytical processing there. So if I want to do something like predict that a piece of equipment is going to fail, or if I want to do something like generate a very contextual cross-sell, upsell interaction with a customer, if I want to do something like look at a real-time interaction with a customer in a retail store, these are the kinds of things that I just can't afford to take all that data, send it all the way back to the cloud, generate an answer, send it all back. But by that time, my car has passed that stop sign, right? Those kinds of things. So we need to push some of that decision-making power to the edge. Now, edge can mean many, many different things. It can actually mean a device. It can mean a gateway on which a bunch of devices are attached to. That comes down to the compute power that you need and the form factors. And I'm sure we'll get into some of the discussions around challenges. But the edge is really about taking those analytical capabilities, which are now top of mind for organizations, pushing that logic closer to the sources of the information and making decisions in such a way that I'm reducing decision latency. And that's a lot of what organizations are looking to address. It's having to do with also the volume of data. I can't send all that data back to the cloud. It has to do with reducing the noise. It has to do with improving the data quality before I send it back to my data lake or data mesh architecture. These are the kinds of things that we're looking at when it comes to edge and edge computing.
Excellent, excellent. That's really, really good answer. And hopefully that triggers a lot of questions from the audience. So just as a reminder, please use the Q&A window in Zoom to submit your questions.